The Varnock flagship loomed in front of them, massive and dark, like a shadow in the stars. Its black, jagged edges seemed to cut through the sky. The ship's engines roared, sending waves of energy across space. Jack's small vessel barely seemed to matter as it flew toward it. Emma gripped the seat next to her. Her hands were sweaty, her heart racing. She was still getting used to the idea of all this, fighting aliens, running from danger, and most of all, learning the truth about her own bloodline. Her father's eyes were fixed ahead, his focus unshakable. "We're almost there," Jack said, his voice steady but low. "Stay sharp. They'll be waiting for us." Emma nodded. She wasn't sure if she was ready for what was about to happen, but she had no choice. She had to be, for her father, for herself. The ship's alarms blared suddenly. The Varnock had seen them. "They're opening fire," Jack shouted, turning the controls hard to the left. Laser beams shot past them, glowing bright and dangerous in the darkness. The ship shook as they dodged the blasts, weaving through them like a dancer avoiding traps. Emma's breath caught in her throat. The noise of the lasers was deafening, the blasts shaking the whole ship. She wanted to panic, to scream, but she couldn't. Not now. "Hold on," Jack shouted again as another shot hit the ship's outer hull. Sparks flew from the side, but the ship kept going. "We've got incoming," Jack said through gritted teeth. "They've launched fighters." Ahead, small black ships shot out from the Varnock flagship, like angry insects swarming toward them. Jack didn't hesitate. He fired the ship's own weapons, sending blasts of energy into the oncoming fighters. One by one, they exploded into flames, but there were too many. More came. "Dad, we won't make it through all of them," Emma shouted. Jack glanced at her. "We don't have to. We just need to get to the ship's core." He turned the ship, flying fast toward the massive central core of the Varnock vessel, where the power control was. But the Varnock fighters were closing in, faster than Jack could shake them. "Brace yourself," Jack muttered, slamming the ship into a high-speed dive. They dropped toward the ship's dark surface, narrowly dodging more blasts. The fighters followed, but Jack was quicker. With one final twist, Jack flew straight through a gap in the flagship's defenses, narrowly avoiding a blast from a laser turret on the surface. "Now," Jack yelled. They hit the ground of the Varnock ship, the ship skidding to a stop. The outside was made of cold metal and strange, glowing lines. Jack wasted no time. He hit a button, and the hatch opened. "Let's go," he shouted. Emma jumped out of the ship first, her heart hammering in her chest. Her father followed quickly, looking both ways before motioning her forward. They ran. The inside of the Varnock flagship was huge, with walls that seemed to breathe and shift. Strange, alien machines hummed in the corners, glowing blue and green. Emma kept her eyes on her father, who moved like a shadow, fast and silent. They ran through twisting corridors, passing dark rooms full of glowing data screens and strange, alien symbols. The Varnock ships were massive, with long, winding hallways that seemed to go on forever. "We're getting close," Jack said, his voice low. "The core is just ahead." Suddenly, a loud sound echoed through the halls. Footsteps. Varnock guards were coming. "Get down," Jack hissed. They ducked behind a corner. Emma's breath was fast and shallow. The guards walked past, their heavy footsteps shaking the floor. Their red eyes glowed as they passed, but they didn't see Jack or Emma hiding. Jack's grip tightened around his gun. "We need to move," he whispered. They ran again, faster this time, knowing they didn't have much time. Finally, they reached a large, circular room. The walls were made of dark metal, and at the center was a glowing core. It hummed with power, sending waves of energy through the entire ship. "This is it," Jack said, his voice steady. "We destroy this, and their fleet goes down." He pulled out a small device from his pack. It was a bomb, powerful enough to tear apart the core. But as Jack set the bomb on the ground, A loud voice echoed through the room. "Did you really think you could stop us?" The voice came from the shadows. A Varnak commander stepped forward, tall and imposing. Its red eyes glowed, and its armor was black and shiny, reflecting the light from the core. Jack stepped forward, his face hard. "This is the end, Varnak." The commander laughed, a cold alien sound. "You are brave, human, but you cannot win. The bloodline will be ours." Emma's eyes narrowed. Not anymore. The ship flew through the dark expanse of space. Jack sat in the pilot's seat, his hands steady on the controls. The stars outside seemed so calm, but inside the ship, everything was far from peaceful. Emma sat next to him, still quiet, her mind racing. She kept glancing at her father, trying to understand what was happening. "Dad," she finally said, her voice soft. "Why did they take me? Why me?" Jack didn't answer right away. He stared at the stars, his jaw tight. "You've got to know something, Emma," he said after a long pause. "You were never just a normal kid. Your mother and I kept this from you, but you're not like other people." Emma's eyes widened. "What do you mean?" Jack turned in his seat to look at her. His face was serious, filled with the weight of years of secrets. "Your bloodline. It's special. It's connected to a program, one that started long before you were born." He paused, like he wasn't sure how to explain. "It's a military program. A secret one. I was part of it. A group of soldiers were made to fight aliens, like the Varnak. But they didn't just train us. They changed us. Our DNA was altered. We were stronger, faster, smarter. And when your mother got pregnant with you, they didn't just see a baby. They saw a weapon." Emma stared at him, unsure of what to say. "So, I'm part of a weapon." "No," Jack said quickly. "You're not a weapon, Emma. You're human, but your DNA, your strength, is something the aliens want. The Varnak have been searching for bloodlines like yours for years. They want to control them. They want to use people like you to make their army stronger." Emma felt like the world was shifting under her feet. "And they knew this about me." Jack nodded. "Yes, they've been watching you, tracking you since you were a baby. They must have finally decided you were old enough, strong enough, to be taken. They thought they could control you." She shook her head slowly. "But you said you left that life. You left it for me, for us." Jack's eyes softened, just for a moment. "I did, and I never wanted you to know any of this. I wanted you to have a normal life. But now, we can't run from it. Not anymore." Emma closed her eyes for a moment, trying to take it all in. Her whole life. Everything she had known felt like it was breaking apart. Was she just part of a plan? Was she just something to be used? Her father's voice brought her back. "Emma," Jack said, his voice firm. "You are not just part of a program. You're my daughter. And we are going to stop the Varnak before they can do anything else." Emma's eyes filled with tears, but she wiped them away quickly. She had to be strong. For herself, for her father. "I don't know if I can handle this, Dad," she whispered. "You don't have to handle it alone," Jack said, his voice low and full of promise. "I'm with you, every step of the way." Emma nodded, feeling a little stronger. The truth was a heavy weight, but now she knew what she had to do. The Varnak were dangerous, but they had underestimated her and her father. Meanwhile, on the alien ship, the Varnak leader paced back and forth. The information from their scouts had come in. The human ship had escaped. They were alive. "They are not just humans," the Varnak leader hissed, looking at the screen. "The girl, she carries the bloodline." A commander stepped forward, its voice low. "She will be hard to capture again. The father, he is no ordinary soldier. We will have her," the leader said coldly. "We have waited long enough. We will send everything we have." Back on Jack's ship, they were nearing the edge of Varnak territory. The tension in the air was thick, like the calm before a storm. Emma sat next to her father, her eyes focused on the screen ahead. "Where are we going?" she asked. Jack looked at her and then at the map. "A place the Varnock will never expect. We're going to strike first. If we take out their command center, we can stop the invasion before it even starts." Emma's heart raced. "But how?" "We'll get inside their main ship. There's a place, hidden deep inside, where they keep their power. If we destroy it, their whole fleet will fall apart." Emma nodded. It sounded impossible, but with her father by her side, maybe, just maybe, it could work. The ship suddenly shook. A warning light flashed on the dashboard. "We've been spotted," Jack said, his eyes narrowing. "It's them." A loud noise came from outside. A massive ship, black and twisted with alien shapes, appeared on the radar. Jack gripped the controls. "Hold on tight." The Varnock were coming. The battle was about to begin. But Jack wasn't afraid. Not anymore. Emma wasn't just a girl. She wasn't just a weapon. She was his daughter. And no one was going to take her again. Back on Earth, a few days later, Emma stood next to her father, looking out at the city from a rooftop. The war was over, and the world was slowly starting to rebuild. But things had changed. She had changed. She wasn't just a normal girl anymore. She had learned the truth about her bloodline, about the strength inside her. She had learned that she could stand up for herself. She wasn't afraid anymore. "Dad," she said, turning to him. "What happens now?" Jack smiled, his hand resting on her shoulder. Now we live. We make sure that no one will ever threaten us again. Together." Emma nodded, a sense of peace settling in her heart. She had always known her father was strong. But now she knew she was strong too. And nothing could take that away. The stars above twinkled quietly, a peaceful reminder of all they had fought for. The darkness of space was no longer something to fear. It was something they had conquered. The end. The sun rose slowly over Colony 12, but the warmth did not reach the hearts of the people. Fear had now settled in like a shadow. Something was changing, and it started with John Graves. He walked through the colony as always, quiet, slow, head down. But now people stepped aside. They didn't laugh anymore. They didn't call him Old Man John. They watched him, whispered, wondered. In the market, someone said, "He killed 2 raiders without a weapon." Another replied, "No, he scared them to death." "They say he was a soldier," someone added, "from a secret project." John heard none of it. Or maybe he did. He just didn't care. Cray, the raider leader, was getting angrier each day. His men were nervous. 3 of them were gone. No alarms, no fights, just gone. And every time, John was nearby. But there was no proof. Cray had enough. "No more games," he growled. "We finish him now." He called his best 5 fighters. They carried shock blades, blasters, and body armor. That night, they found John walking near the old power station. "Hey, old man," one said, stepping forward. "You think you're smart, huh?" John stopped walking, but didn't turn around. "You killed our men," the second said. "Time to pay." Still, no answer. One of the fighters ran forward and grabbed John's shoulder. That was a mistake. In less than a second, John twisted the man's arm, slammed him to the ground, and turned to face the rest. His coat flew open, and everyone saw it. His body was covered in scars. Deep old battle scars. His muscles were tight, trained, and ready. The mask was off. He wasn't just a quiet man. He was something else. Something deadly. 2 fighters charged at him with shock blades. John dodged both with fast, smooth moves. He kicked one in the chest, sending him flying 5 feet back. The other tried to stab him, but John grabbed his wrist, snapped it, and threw him into a wall. The last 2 fighters hesitated. Their hands shook. One fired a blaster, but John rolled to the side and jumped forward. A single punch to the stomach dropped the shooter. The final man turned to run, but John grabbed him by the collar. "I told your leader," John said coldly. "Stop this." Then he let the man go. The fighter ran back to Cray, screaming, "He's not human. He's not just a man." Now Cray was scared too, but he didn't show it. "We call for backup," he said. "I know people. Mercenaries. Killers. We'll bring an army if we have to." But the colony had seen everything. They watched from windows, from rooftops, from the shadows. John didn't hide anymore. The people saw the truth now. He was fast, strong, and skilled like no one else on the planet. A small boy asked, "Is he a superhero?" His father replied, "No, he's something older than that." John went to Mr. Hargan's shop that evening. The old man nodded slowly. "I knew it," he said. "You were one of them." John looked at him. "I didn't want to be." "But you are," Mr. Hargan whispered. "You're a revenant." John didn't answer. He just looked out the window at the desert. "They're bringing more men," he said. "They won't stop." Mr. Hargan nodded. "Will you fight?" John's voice was low, calm. "I didn't come here to fight. I came to hide." "Then why fight now?" John stared at the stars in the sky. "Because they hurt the innocent. Because someone has to stand up." That night, he dug into his old bag. Inside was a small metal box. He opened it. Inside were gloves, not normal ones, but combat gloves with microblades hidden inside. There was also a small chip. He placed it on his neck. A blue light blinked. His eyes glowed faintly. Old systems online. Memories returned. Memories of war, of fire, of blood, of who he once was. John Graves was no longer hiding. He was preparing. It was a quiet night in the small town. The sky was dark, and the stars were shining like tiny lights above. A soft wind moved the trees. Most people were sleeping. But Jack was awake. He sat in his old chair on the front porch, drinking black coffee. He liked the silence. It helped him forget the past. It helped him stay calm. Inside the house, his daughter Emma was getting ready for bed. She was only 15, smart and strong. Jack loved her more than anything in the world. Since her mother died, Emma was all he had left. Jack looked at his watch. It was almost 10 p.m. "Emma, bedtime," he said. "I know, Dad," she called back with a smile. A few minutes later, the lights in her room went off. Jack closed his eyes. The wind was calm. The night was peaceful. Then, suddenly, something strange happened. The wind stopped. The air felt heavy. The sky above the house turned white, like a light bulb had turned on in the sky. A deep humming sound filled the air. Jack stood up fast. His heart beat hard. He knew this feeling. He had felt it before, long ago, in another life. He ran inside the house. "Emma," he shouted. No answer. He rushed to her room. The window was open. The curtains moved slowly in the windless air. Emma's bed was empty. Her books were on the floor. Her blanket was half on the bed, half on the ground. Jack's eyes searched the room. His hands shook, but his face stayed still. Cold, controlled. He looked out the window. In the middle of the yard, something was glowing. A small round object. It was silver and blue, and it gave off a soft light. Jack ran outside. He picked up the object. It was warm. He held it tight and looked up at the sky. No more lights. The stars were normal again. No sound, no ship, no clue. But Emma was gone. Jack didn't scream. He didn't cry. He just stood there. After a few seconds, he whispered, "They came back." He turned around and walked into the house. He went down into the basement. It was cold and dark. He pulled a chain and a light came on. In the corner was a metal box. Big, heavy, covered in dust. He opened it. Inside were weapons, not normal guns. These were old, secret weapons, high-tech, dangerous, built for one thing: to fight something not from Earth. Jack picked up a black suit, smooth and flexible. He put it on. He loaded the weapons, fast, like he had done it 1,000 times. His eyes were not soft now. They were hard like stone. His face looked like a soldier again, not a father. But he was both. He looked in a mirror. He hardly recognized himself. It had been 15 years since he left that life. 15 years of silence. Peace. But peace was over. They took my daughter, he said to himself. He picked up the glowing object again. It was now blinking slowly, blue, then red, then blue again. A tracker. A message. A warning. Or maybe a challenge. Jack put it in his pocket. He climbed the stairs. As he left the basement, he looked at a photo on the wall. Emma as a baby, her mother holding her. I promised I'd protect her, he said softly. He walked out into the night. He didn't need police. He didn't need help. He needed a ship. He needed old contacts. And he needed to make someone pay. Above him, the stars looked quiet again. But Jack knew better. Somewhere out there, aliens had taken the wrong girl. And her father was a human weapon. Subject number 1, the commander said, his voice like ice. You should have joined us. You were meant to be our weapon. John didn't respond. He didn't need to. He was done talking. This was the end. The commander raised his hand, signaling the last wave of soldiers to attack. The ground rumbled as the war machines moved forward, their cannons aimed directly at John. But John wasn't afraid. He wasn't just a soldier anymore. He was the end of their plan. He charged forward, using his speed to dodge the enemy fire. He leaped onto the first war machine and tore through it with his bare hands, ripping apart the armored plating like it was paper. The explosion sent soldiers flying, but John was already onto the next target. The commander watched, his eyes filled with disbelief. No one should be able to do this. John grinned. You should have known better than to mess with someone who was made to destroy. With one final leap, John landed on the command center's platform. The commander raised his weapon, aiming at John's chest. But before he could fire, John slammed his fist into the control panel, short-circuiting the system. The lights flickered, and the machines fell silent. The commander's weapon sputtered and failed. John looked the commander in the eyes. This ends now. With one final strike, John crushed the commander's helmet. The battle was over. The enemy was defeated. As the dust settled and the smoke cleared, John stood alone on the battlefield, surrounded by the broken remnants of the enemy army. His body was bruised and battered, but he was still standing. The people of Colony 12 slowly emerged from their shelters, staring in awe at the hero who had saved them. Mr. Hargan walked up to him, a smile on his face. You did it. John looked at the horizon, the battle now behind him. He was tired, but for the first time in a long while, he felt a sense of peace. No, John said quietly. We did it. The end. She grabbed her energy pistol, aimed it at the Varnock commander, and fired. The blast hit the commander square in the chest. It staggered back, but it didn't fall. The commander's eyes flashed with fury. You think that will stop me? Before Emma could react, the commander charged, fast as lightning. Jack dove at the commander, tackling it to the ground. The two struggled, rolling across the floor. Emma ran toward the bomb, hitting the button. Get down, Jack shouted. The Varnock commander reached for Jack's throat, but Jack knocked it away just in time. They both scrambled. The bomb beeped louder. Boom! The room shook. Lights flashed, and the ship began to crumble. The explosion shook the entire Varnock flagship. The ground beneath their feet trembled as flames erupted from the core. Bright lights flashed, and a loud, terrifying roar filled the air. We have to go. Now, Jack shouted. Emma didn't need to be told twice. She grabbed her father's arm, pulling him toward the exit. The ship was crumbling, falling apart around them. They could hear the distant sound of metal twisting and bending, alarms wailing in the background. The hallways were chaos. The floor cracked and shook as they ran, the air thick with smoke. Their path was getting harder to follow, but Jack didn't slow down. He was focused. He had done this before. He knew the ship's layout, knew where to go. They had to make it to the escape hatch. "Stay close, Emma," Jack shouted. "I'm right behind you." She called back, her voice steady, even though her heart raced in her chest. They ran through the twisting corridors, but the walls seemed to be closing in, like the ship itself was trying to stop them. Sparks flew from the ceiling. Pipes burst, sending a rush of hot steam into the air. Then the ground shook again, harder this time. The ship was losing its grip on the stars. "We're not going to make it," Emma cried, her eyes wide with fear. "We will," Jack said, gritting his teeth. "We're not leaving this place without you." They rounded a corner and saw the escape hatch up ahead. But a group of Varnock soldiers blocked the way, their weapons aimed at them. Jack didn't hesitate. He pulled out his gun and fired, the blast sending one of the soldiers flying back. But there were too many of them. The Varnock soldiers advanced, their eyes glowing with fury. Jack took a step back, ready to fight. But Emma, her heart pounding, stepped forward. "Dad, let me," she said, her voice strong. Jack looked at her, surprised, but then he saw the determination in her eyes. He nodded. Emma pulled out her own energy pistol and fired. The first blast hit a soldier in the chest, knocking him to the ground. She fired again, hitting another soldier. The third soldier lunged toward her, but she sidestepped and shot him in the back. The remaining soldiers hesitated, unsure of how to handle a girl who had just taken down 3 of their best. "Let's go," Emma shouted. Jack grabbed her arm, and they ran toward the escape hatch. Behind them, the Varnock soldiers recovered, but it was too late. The escape hatch was opening. They jumped inside, and the hatch slammed shut behind them. The ship shook again, but now they were free. The small escape pod shot through the air, leaving the burning remains of the Varnock flagship behind. They watched from the windows as the massive ship began to crumble into pieces, breaking apart in a fiery explosion. Pieces of metal and debris rained down, disappearing into the endless black of space. Emma exhaled, her chest tight from the tension. She looked at her father, her eyes wide. "We did it," she whispered. "We actually did it." Jack didn't answer at first. He was staring out into space, his face serious. But after a moment, he turned to her, his face softening. "You did it, Emma," he said. "You helped me stop them." Emma smiled, though she still felt the weight of everything they had been through. But now, as the escape pod drifted away from the wreckage, she felt a sense of relief. The Varnock were gone. The invasion was over. They were safe. The colony was quiet the next day. Too quiet. People walked slowly, looking around as if something bad was hiding in the shadows. The body of the dead raider had been removed, but the memory was fresh. His face, twisted in fear, stayed in their minds. Some people said it was John. Others said it was impossible. How could a quiet man, who barely talked, do something like that? But Mr. Hargan, the old tool shop owner, wasn't surprised. He stood near the marketplace, cleaning his glasses, and said to a small group, "I told you. That man isn't what he seems. He's dangerous, but only if you push him." The people looked at each other, worried. The raiders were angry now. Their leader, the man with the scar across his eye, his name was Cray, was not used to fear. He had killed soldiers, burned villages, and robbed starships. But something about that one moment, when John looked at him with those cold, calm eyes, made his skin crawl. Still, he laughed loudly in front of his crew. "It was just luck," he told them. "An old man got lucky. I'll deal with him myself." His men nodded, but they didn't look sure. They had seen the broken body of their friend. No weapon, no sound, just death, silent and fast. That night, Cray sent 2 more men to follow John. "Find out who he really is," he ordered. "And if you get the chance, break his legs." The 2 raiders followed John into the rocky hills outside the colony. John went there every evening, alone, carrying nothing but a bag. He walked slowly, like always. The raiders stayed quiet, hiding behind rocks, watching. John reached a high point and sat down. He opened the bag and pulled out something small, an old photo. He stared at it for a long time. The wind blew dust across his face, but he didn't move. Then he stood up. The raiders prepared to attack. But before they could move, John vanished. "What though? Where did he go?" one of them whispered. A hand grabbed his shoulder. He turned. It was John. His eyes were calm, but his grip was iron. The raider tried to speak, but no sound came. In 2 seconds, he was on the ground, unconscious. The second raider pulled out his blaster. "You're dead, old man." John ducked, moved to the side, and kicked the weapon from his hand. The raider tried to run, but John caught him by the arm and looked into his eyes. "Tell your leader," John said, voice low and cold. "Next time, I won't be gentle." He let the man go. The raider ran all the way back to the colony, shaking and sweating. Cray didn't believe him. "You're lying," Cray shouted. 2 trained men, taken out by 1 old fool. Impossible. But the fear in the raider's eyes was real. Still, Cray ignored the warning. He sent more men to search John's house. They broke into his small room while he was away. They searched his things, but found nothing except an old wooden box. Inside was a piece of metal shaped like a dog tag. It had letters and numbers scratched into it. Project Revenant. Subject number 1. John Graves. One of the raiders laughed. "What is this junk? Looks like army stuff." The other frowned. "This tag, it's from Earth. Military stuff. Maybe even secret." They didn't take it seriously. They laughed, dropped the tag, and left the room a mess. When John returned, he found everything broken. His chair, his table, his only photo, ripped in 2. He stood in the middle of the room, silent. Then he picked up the dog tag and held it tight in his fist. That night, the power in the colony went out for 10 seconds. When it returned, one of the raiders who searched John's room was missing. The next morning, his body was found on the edge of the crater near the mines. No wounds, no blood, just fear in his eyes, like he saw something, or someone, before he died. Now the colony was scared. People locked their doors early. Children were told to stay indoors. Even the raiders began to look over their shoulders. Mr. Hargan told the others, "I saw this before, long ago. On Earth, special soldiers, trained to kill fast, with no sound. They were ghosts." One young man asked, "What do you call someone like that?" Mr. Hargan looked into the distance.